It's time for the news.
President Abdelmajid Tebboune has offered his condolences to his U.S. counterpart Joe Biden following the recent fires that hit Hawaiian island Maui, killing and wounding several people. And the president has also offered his condolences to his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping following the floods and landslides that killed and injured several people in the northern China. And Prime Minister Ayman bin Abdulrahman has inaugurated the last section of the East-West Highway, stretching over 84 kilometers and linking the municipality of Diriyah west of Taraf to the Tunisian border town of Rum El Souk. And the Niger delegation of religious leaders in Niamey for talks with the new leaders to try and pave the way for a settlement of the country's crisis. And those were the major developments. Now the full news edition. Good afternoon. President of the Republic Abdelmajid Tebboune has offered his condolences to his U.S. counterpart Joe Biden following the recent fires that hit Hawaiian island Maui, killing and wounding several people. President Tebboune expressed sympathy with the families of the victims and wished a speedy recovery for the injured. He also reiterated Algeria's solidarity, government and people, with the U.S. in such difficult circumstances. And the president has also offered his condolences to his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping following the floods and landslides that killed and injured several people in the northern part of China. President Tebboune expressed sympathy with the families of the victims and with all the Chinese people. He also wished a speedy recovery for the injured. The president also seized the opportunity to reiterate Algeria's solidarity with China and its president in the current difficult circumstances. Prime Minister Ayman bin Abdulrahman has inaugurated the last section of the East-West Highway, stretching over 84 kilometers and linking the municipality of Diriyah west of Taraf to the Tunisian border. The inauguration of this last section marks the completion of the East-West Highway, which will facilitate trade between Algeria and Tunisia, improve the fluidity of traffic, and strengthen the safety of road users. The Algerian Prime Minister congratulated the region and Algeria as a whole for this tremendous achievement.
With the inauguration of this last section of the East-West Highway, this tremendous economic infrastructure will be completed. If water is the essence of life, the road is the artery of economy. This is the new Algeria that relies on economic approach in its new strategy. So congratulations to the residents of this region and to Algeria for this achievement.
And Mr. bin Abdulrahman also proceeded on the occasion of his working and inspection visit to the eastern provinces of Guelma, Annaba and Taraf with the laying of the first stone of the project of modernization and duplication of the Eastern Mining Railway line in its section connecting the province of Annaba to the province of Guelma. The Prime Minister recalled the state's commitment to setting up seawater desalination plants across the country's coastal line to make up for water shortages and meet the citizens' need in drinkable water.
We hope that the workers of the complex will take care of things and the state will support it with available means, because we should not forget the tremendous efforts that the state has undertaken to support this complex that no other countries have undertaken before. This complex has a sentimental value for all Algerians, given that it is the first structured complex in Algeria and the first in Africa. So the state has decided in several instances to support it and avoid the collapse of this production tool.
And with regard to the iron and steel complex of Al-Hajjar located in the province of Annaba, Mr. Abdulrahman emphasized both the historic and current value that this important production machine has for Algerians and for the state in particular. And the Prime Minister recalled the state's commitment to setting up seawater desalination plants across the country's coastal line to make up for water shortages and meet the citizens' need in drinking water.
The recourse to seawater desalination to supply residents with water is considered a necessity in the midst of the climate change that affects all the countries of the world. The national strategy is moving forward with the implementation of a strategic plan devoted to the building in a first phase of 5 water desalination plants with a capacity of 300,000 cubic meters per day, in addition to the 2020-2021 emergency plan, which allowed us to make up for the shortage of potable water and supply the residents. This strategy aims to supply all the residents of coastal cities up to 150 kilometers inland with desalinated water.
It's worth recalling that during his visit to the 3 provinces, Mr. Ben Abdulrahman, who is accompanied by a ministerial delegation, is to inspect several infrastructure projects as well as vital projects in the public works, energy and industry sectors. You're still listening to Radio Algeria International. And in Niger, a delegation of religious leaders is in Niamey for talks with the new leaders to try and pave the way for a settlement of the country's crisis. Mohammed Khatel has more.
The Niger press agency said the delegation members were received by the newly appointed Prime Minister Ali Mahaman Lamine Zein. Sources close to the delegation were quoted by media as saying that the religious leaders were on a mediation mission agreed on by the acting chairman of the Economic Community of the West African States, ECOWAS, Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu. The objective of the mission is to ease the tensions triggered off by the prospects of a military intervention which the organization has threatened to launch to restore the constitutional order in Niger. The delegation of the religious leaders, led by Sheikh Bala Lao, met last week with the Nigerian president to discuss the details of their mediation mission. The mission came in the wake of a summit meeting held 2 days ago by the ECOWAS, during which the West African leaders agreed to privilege a settlement of the crisis through diplomatic means, reiterating that the recourse to force would be the last option to be considered by the organization. It is worth noting that member countries of ECOWAS have postponed sine die a meeting scheduled to take place in Accra to examine the deployment of an intervention force in Niger. Meanwhile, an advisor to President Mohamed Bazoum said the Niger President of the Republic had been visited by his doctor. This came in response to a request earlier made by the UN, the US and the African and European Unions, which expressed concerns at the president's detention conditions. In the meantime, several Nigerian MPs, senators and political leaders urged President Tinubu to reconsider ECOWAS's decision to intervene in the neighboring country with whom Nigeria shares historic links.
And in Mali, 6 soldiers have been killed in a terrorist attack carried out in the northern part of the country. Army sources said 4 other soldiers were wounded in the attack perpetrated in the region of Bur. Ensuing clashes broke out after terrorist groups fired at units of the Malian forces present in the region in replacement of the UN mission. In Somalia, 23 members of the terrorist Al-Shabaab group have been killed during operations carried out by the army in the southern part of the country. The Defense Ministry stressed that 3 bases used by the terrorist group were destroyed during 3 operations carried out in the region of Bay. The operations came as the African Union Transition Mission in Somalia is preparing together with its partners to carry out a joint technical assessment of the first stage of its troop pullout of the country that was completed last June. To the Middle East now, and the Commission of the Affairs of the Palestinian Detainees has called on the international community to break the silence over the administrative detention used by the Israeli authorities and rejected as a crime by the Palestinians. In a communique carried by the news agency Wafa, it urged for the launching of a genuine initiative to form an international committee of humanitarian and human rights. Such a committee would be entrusted with visiting the Israeli prisons to witness the suffering of the administrative detainees who have been imprisoned without being indicted or tried. And the Commission went on to say that the inhuman abuses carried out by the Israeli authorities in fulfillment of their occupation policy went beyond the international law's principles and ran counter the democratic rules implemented all over the world. This came as 6 Palestinians were arrested during an operation carried out today by the Israeli soldiers in various parts of the West Bank. And in Ukraine, 7 people, including 1 baby, have been killed in bombardments carried out by the Russian army against the southern region of Kherson. The region, which is still under Ukrainian forces' control, is regularly hit by the Russian bombardments. You still listen to Radio Algeria International, and in the United States, 93 people have been killed in the fires that ravaged the Maui Island in the Hawaiian archipelago.
Maui has been under several power cuts during the current crisis, and the emergency number 911 and fire alarms ceased to work in some parts of the island. The alerts that are usually transmitted over the phone were not received due to network issues. Thus, there was no efficient solution to ensure the security of the inhabitants. Maui Island has experienced other serious fires in recent years, with blazes in 2018 and 2021 razing hundreds of homes and causing the evacuation of thousands of residents and tourists. The U.S. has not witnessed such deadly fires since the California fires that destroyed the small city of Paradise and killed 86 people in 2018. Scientists said the devastating fires in Hawaii, where at least 93 people have died after a conflagration that ravaged the historic town of Lahaina, were worsened by a number of factors, including the climate crisis. Rising global temperatures and drought have helped turn parts of Hawaii into a tinderbox ahead of one of the deadliest fires in modern U.S. history, with these conditions worsened by strong winds from a nearby cyclone. Experts say that wildfires in Hawaii are now burning through 4 times the amount of area than in previous decades, in part due to the proliferation of more inflammable non-native grasses, but also rising global temperatures.
You're still listening to Radio Algeria International, and China has deplored and strongly condemned the U.S. decision to arrange the so-called stopover for Lai Ching-te, saying that China firmly opposes any visit by Taiwan independence separatists to the United States in any name or under whatever pretext. It was reported that Deputy Leader of Taiwan's Vice President Lai Ching-te set off for Paraguay on August 12 to attend the inauguration of Paraguay's new president and arrived in New York for a stopover. 14 hours 42 minutes Algiers time. You still listen to Radio Algeria International, and time now for the headlines. President Abdelmadjid Tebboune has offered his condolences to his U.S. counterpart Joe Biden following the recent fires that hit Hawaiian island Maui, killing and wounding several people. And the president has also offered his condolences to his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping following the floods and landslides that killed and injured several people in the northern part of China. And Prime Minister Ayman bin Abdulrahman has inaugurated the last section of the East-West Highway, stretching over 84 kilometers and linking the municipality of Durian west of Taraf to the Tunisian border town. And in Niger, a delegation of religious leaders is in Niamey for talks with new leaders to try and pave the way for a settlement of the country's crisis. And that's it, dear listeners, for our news bulletin. I invite you now to listen to a cultural program presented by Jamal Salmani.
Welcome to your weekly program, Destination Algeria. I'm Jamal Samani. There are a number of great destinations in Algeria just waiting to be discovered. A curious mixture of cultures and influences. Algeria has something interesting to see in just about every city. The country is also the first largest on the African continent, so you can be sure that there are plenty of towns and cities to visit. Let's visit Algeria's fascinating destinations, you and I, together. Algiers has a number of fascinating landmarks and attractions within walking distance of one another, offering visitors the opportunity to enjoy parts of the city at a leisurely pace. One of the suggested routes to walk starts at the historic Palais de Rais bastion with its view of the inner port of Algiers and the lighthouse built by the infamous Barbarossa. From there, visitors can walk a route that includes Dar al-Hamra, the Convert Marketplace, the Museum of Popular Arts and Traditions, the 16th century Hammam Sidna, and a number of classic Algerian houses, some of which once housed the French governor of Algeria and other officials prior to Algerian independence. Considered to be one of the most important historical monuments of the city of Algiers, Palais des Reis is an extension of the city's Kasbah and was commercial hub in the past. The initial buildings, which later developed into the palace, were constructed in 1576 by the Dey of Algiers as a defensive structure between the growing Kasbah and the port. The palace, as it is seen today, was reportedly constructed between 1750 and 1798 by the Dey of the time and became home to a number of different groups over the subsequent years, including the Consulate of the United States, a school, and the Duke of Aumale, before being turned into a library. Homeless families claimed the building in 1962, remaining there until 1980. The Ministry of Culture set about restoring the historic building. It was opened to the public as a monument and museum, as well as the Center for Arts and Culture in 1994, and is used as the venue for a wide range of cultural events. The Museum of Popular Arts and Traditions is a treasure trove of local arts and crafts from generations ago to more recent times. On display are a wide range of artworks, wall hangings, carpets, jewelry, ceramics, and furniture, all bearing testimony to the skill of the artists and artisans. The building itself is architecturally and historically significant, having been built in 1570 as an Ottoman palace. The spacious entrance hall leads into an inner hall, overlooked by the balconies of the floor above. Graceful arcades and carved woodwork are characteristics of the building. Certainly, it is worth stopping at this interesting museum when on a walking tour through this historic part of the city of Algiers. You're listening to Destination Algeria. I'm Jamal Samani. In the second part of our program, Mohamed Barzwan will tell you about 3 national parks here in Algeria.
With 11 national parks and a number of nature reserves, Algeria is intent on conserving its natural heritage for future generations. Along the Algerian coastline, there are 3 national parks: Gourea National Park, El Qala National Park, and Taza National Park, each of which has its own special characteristics, making it worthwhile to visit all 3. Gourea National Park takes its name from the majestic mountain located within its boundaries. Standing at a height of 660 meters, Mount Gourea is a dominating feature in the park, which is listed as UNESCO Biosphere Reserve. The clean beaches and sparkling ocean are a huge attraction for visitors, and dolphins and whales may be spotted in the park's protected waters. The mountainous vegetation and forests offer ideal habitats for a wide range of animals, some of which are considered to be endangered. Visitors can keep an eye out for wild cats, Barbary macaques, and a host of bird species while exploring Gourea National Park, as well as threatened plant species such as Aleppo pine and prickly juniper. Also recognized as UNESCO Biosphere Reserve is the Tataza National Park in Algiers' eastern Jijel province. Although the park is the smallest of Algiers' national parks, it is abounding in wildlife and uncommon vegetation, as well as having some interesting geological features. Its stretches of sandy beach, dense forest, star cliffs, and fascinating grottos provide habitats for a wide range of animals and birds. El Kala National Park has an astounding variety of ecosystems and is also recognized by UNESCO as a biosphere reserve. The park is home to some 40 mammal species and 98 bird species. Bird watchers will appreciate the many viewing towers and bird heights in the park, while the entire family will enjoy Eco Museum and Mini Zoo.